Number 10. The Abandoned Crypt of Namor. The Abandoned Crypt of Namor is one of the spookiest places in all of Belgium. This disturbing crypt is actually hidden in the back of a larger cemetery, which opened in 1885. The cemetery has high stone walls, an intimidating iron gate, and in the corner, way in the back where nobody can see it, is a small chapel. It's beneath this chapel down a flight of stairs and into the basement where you will find the Abandoned Crypt of Namor. The crypt is damp, it's moldy, and it contains a gallery of tombs that nobody has come to look at in decades. The walls are covered in moss, the skylights create an eerie gloom, and it honestly looks as if the dead might come back to life at any second. Perfect place to be for Halloween, that's for sure. Yikes! What's really interesting about the crypt is that all its dark passages have tombstones from varying eras. For example, those who died in the 19th century were buried with small, creepy portraits of themselves affixed to their tombstones. When people first started being buried here, they were placed inside wooden coffins. But these coffins often broke because of the humidity, which turned the crypt into an extremely unhealthy place. It was basically an underground sweat lodge full of bacteria from dead people. So the city eventually instituted a rule in which all the coffins had to be made of zinc. Number 9. The Doll Behind the Wall. It turns out one of the creepiest places in the world just so happens to be a random schoolteacher's house in the United Kingdom. This guy made a bizarre discovery behind the wall of his house when he picked up the keys to his new home and moved in. He was excited to be in his new home, but noticed there was a wire sticking out from the wall in a rather unusual place. So 32-year-old Jonathan Lewis knocked through the plasterboard to see where the wire went. Curiosity killed the cat. After he broke a hole in the wall, he came across a small cavity with a rag doll in it. Yes, there was literally an old creepy doll living inside of his wall. To make the situation even creepier, the doll had a handwritten note in its lap. The note informed Jonathan that the doll was named Emily and that her original owners resided in the house back in 1961. The note also said that Emily, the doll, didn't like the owners, and so they had to go. Further on in the note, Emily admitted that she stabbed the owners to death before retreating into the wall. Great! While most people would probably pack up and move out, Jonathan actually thought it was a pretty funny prank. Whoever had lived in the house before him had obviously stashed the doll and the note in hopes that someone would find them. Last we heard, Jonathan has yet to be murdered by the doll. Would you pull on a mysterious wire sticking out of your wall? What would you do if you found this doll? Let me know in the comments below. Number 8. Abandoned Gold Rush Village. This last summer's intense heat wave caused one of the creepiest places in America to be revealed, located in Folsom Lake in California. The water of the lake receded to levels rarely seen in history, revealing an abandoned spooky gold rush village from the 1800s. With the water level so low, the old bones of the town became clearly visible to visitors. The building foundations, broken pieces of pottery, rusty old nails, and other remnants of what was once a town settled by prospectors in the 1840s. By 1853, the gold rush town named Mormon Island had acquired about 2,500 settlers. The town burned out after the gold rush was over, being abandoned by pretty much all of the residents. Then, in 1955, when the Folsom Dam was built, what little was left of the creepy old place was submerged underwater. Nobody got a look at the town for nearly half a century until this recent heat wave. Now, it's about a half-mile hike to see the ruins from the main road. You actually have to walk across the dry lake bed just to see them, but it's well worth it if you're into creepy abandoned places like this. The local authorities only ask that you don't take any of the pieces of the town with you when you leave. The ghosts of Mormon Island might just follow you home if you do. Number 7. The Village of Nagoro. The Village of Nagoro in Japan is one of the creepiest places in the entire country. It's located in the valleys of Shikoku, with the primary residents being large dolls. Over the past few decades, the inhabitants of the village have left in droves, searching for employment and better lives in the big city. At the same time, many of the older residents have been passing away. This has left a huge gap in the population of Nagoro, turning it into a ghost town. When Tsukimi Ayano returned to Nagoro, her hometown, 11 years ago, she couldn't believe how empty it was. Faced with intense loneliness, she decided to repopulate the village herself. Only she didn't use people, she used dolls. So far, she has created about 350 life-size dolls to take the places of the residents who are gone, inspired by what they actually looked like. She filled the local school with child-sized dolls and put them into desk seats where they forever wait for class to start. Most of these dolls are made from straw, and they can be seen around the town performing various tasks. There are dolls working in the gardens, some fishing, and some simply strolling about town. The idea actually started when Tsukimi created a lifelike doll of her deceased father, then decided to replace her other family members as well. But 10 years after that, her work continues. She has single-handedly made one of the eeriest villages in the world. Number 6. The catacombs of Rome. While the city streets of Rome may be full of history and glamour, what lurks underneath the streets are dark tunnels full of dead bodies and horror. I'm talking about the catacombs of Rome, an underground gallery that has been used for centuries to bury the dead. These catacombs began life in the 2nd century under Roman rule, ultimately being finished in the 5th century. It took about 300 years to complete the vast network of tunnels and chambers underneath the city streets. The reason for their inception is actually quite interesting. In the Roman Empire, it was the general rule that you burned the dead. In fact, it was actually illegal to bury dead people inside Roman city limits. But at the time, Jews and Christians preferred to be buried. The Romans didn't like that very much, so they built them their own underground catacombs for them to stash their dead. The very first catacomb was carved on the outskirts of Rome, but the underground network soon spread like tentacles beneath the earth. There are now miles of underground tunnels, with each tunnel filled with row upon row of small niches. It was inside these niches where the Jews and Christians buried their loved ones. During times when it was forbidden, they would come down here and add spaces, then quickly cover it with some sort of gravestone or plaque to hide the body. In modern times, there were over 60 catacombs in Rome, with thousands and thousands of tombs. Only 5 of them are actually open to the public, including the catacombs of St. Agnes. St. Agnes herself was buried here after she was tortured for believing in her Christian faith. Number 5. The Alaskan Hotel. The Alaskan Hotel is one place you probably don't want to spend the night. It's a historic hotel in the city of Juneau with a reputation for being extremely haunted. The most haunted place in the entire hotel is room 315. According to Betty Adams, the woman who has owned the Alaskan Hotel for over 40 years, it's an extremely creepy place. Even though she says she's never seen the ghosts, she feels an immediate unnerving presence the moment she opens the door to that room. Perhaps the creepiest part of the room is its decor, looking straight out of the early 20th century when Alaska was filled with gold diggers. There is even an antique phone hanging up on the wall. You might forget what year you're in by the time you wake up. But it's not just room 315 that's haunted. Guests here have reported seeing strange things in just about every corner of the hotel, from the basement to the bar, and in almost every room. Seeing as it is one of the oldest major hotels in Alaska, it's no surprise there are some old-timey ghosts lurking in the halls. Would you dare spend a night in the Alaskan Hotel? If so, would you specifically request room 315? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. And now for number 4, but first want to give a big shout out to Pamela Mandamin and Anthony Regnelli. Thanks so much for watching. Number 4, the scariest road in the world. In New York, there is a small stretch of road about 5 miles long that cuts directly through the forest. Apparently, the road is so haunted that the local authorities keep it closed at night to avoid any ghostly incidents. Suffice to say, it might be the creepiest road in the entire world. There are a lot of legends surrounding the road. Some say the woods here were used heavily by members of the KKK for lynchings, and even Satan worshippers for performing terrifying sacrifices. Between the lynchings and the sacrificing, many of the victims' spirits have stuck around to haunt the area. People driving across the woods at night have witnessed things like small children wandering along the side of the road, children's blankets covered in blood drooping from the trees, and even ropes hanging from branches. If you yourself are feeling brave enough to search the area for ghosts, You'll find this road near Baldwinsville. It's called Whiskey Hollow Road, and if you happen to get stuck in the middle of the night, you'll have to wait until morning for the authorities to let you out. You just better hope that you live that long. Number 3. The Poison Garden. In the north of England, there is a garden so dangerous and so creepy that you could literally die just visiting it. It's called the Alnwick Garden, with acres of colorful plants, cascading fountains, and fragrant roses. But the garden is kept safe behind a huge iron gate, as you can't simply wander in and start smelling flowers. In fact, trying to smell the flowers could leave you dead on the ground. The story of the garden goes back to 1995, when Jane Percy became the Duchess of Northumberland. With this impressive title came ownership of Alnwick Castle. You might recognize the castle as the setting for Hogwarts in the original 2 Harry Potter movies. In any case, the Duchess hired the most prestigious landscape architect in the world, Jacques Wertz. Together, they created the most poisonous garden ever, and one of the top tourist attractions in England today. The inspiration actually came from the Medici poison garden in Italy. The Duchess wanted to create a garden of plants that could kill people instead of healing them. There are now over 100 varieties of toxic plants living in the Alnwick Garden, including Angel's Trumpet. Angel's Trumpet is actually from the same family of plants as nightshade. It grows in South America, but was used by ladies during Victorian England to experience something different, let's say. They would sprinkle tiny bits of pollen into their tea to get high, though too much would cause them to drop dead. Number 2. The Bennett School for Girls. The Bennett School for Girls is a creepy abandoned structure found in Millbrook, New York. From the outside, it's a creepy cross between a Gothic mystery mansion, a haunted castle, and an old rundown manor where countless murders have taken place. It was once a luxury hotel, but when business dimmed, it was transformed into a women's-only prep school. That school also fell on hard times thanks to the dawn of co-ed education, meaning boys and girls learned together in one room. It was abandoned in 1977, and it's been sitting in Millbrook for nearly 50 years without anyone knowing what to do with it. Its rooms are empty, the halls have been stripped of anything of value. The only way to know how prestigious the building once was is by looking at its cracked facade. The local government has actually had to put a gate up around it to stop urban explorers from creeping through the hallways to make their YouTube videos. Number 1. The Catacombs of Alexandria. The Catacombs of Alexandria, also known as the Catacombs of Kom el Shokafa, are some of the most impressive in the world. The catacombs are also quite different from the typical tombs made by the ancient Egyptians. This is a legit underground crypt, accessible only from a spiraling staircase that descends deep into the earth, about 115 feet. It was built during the 2nd century AD, when Egypt was ruled by the Greco-Romans. The crypt, which may once have been shiny and impressive, is currently damp and creepy. The lowest level has been flooded, making it impossible to access. The whole place is dark and poorly maintained, with very little light to illuminate the holes in the walls where hundreds of corpses had been stored for centuries. The catacomb was actually lost sometime after the 4th century, not discovered again until the year 1900, when a donkey tripped and fell through the access shaft. Nobody had any idea that there was a crypt here. Even today, after so many archaeologists have studied the site, nobody has any idea who the crypt was built for or what purpose it was supposed to serve. The experts say it was probably intended for a single family, but was ultimately enlarged until it became one of the 7 wonders of the Middle Ages. Once a wonder, now it's a creepy old necropolis. Thanks for watching! Which of these creepy places would you love to visit if you had the chance? Let me know in the comments below, and remember to subscribe if you haven't already. See you soon! Bye!